One thing they teach you about getting a man is to play hard. Don't let him know you like him back and only be his when he's about to give up. But pick me's figured out why not just give the entire process and just lay naked in front of a man. When it comes to pick me girls, they try to make it as easy as possible for a man to like them. And they try to be on their good side as much as possible. Does playing hard to get work? Playing hard to get is getting more and more outdated. But game is something that we got from the women and the men before us, and their men stayed forever. And in my opinion, I think the dopamine tends to hit harder when you actually work really hard to get something and not when you get it easy. So when you do get it, you respect it and you don't take it for granted. That's why things like dowries are high because, well, it makes the man have to put in much more effort, and every time he's working hard or starting to get tired, he remembers why he's doing it. Because the reward is better than the effort. But yes, some stuff have changed with people's minds changing on things like gender roles, but the structural pillars are still there. Since times changed, access to women also changed, became easier. It's easier now to have a woman than it was, let's say, 80 years ago. And one thing that determines the value of something in society or in the market is quantity. And so one way you can control value is by controlling the stock and not overflooding the market. And guess what? Now the market is really overflooded. And with empowerment and equality, women have forgot the rules, but men haven't. Women have shifted with the shift of mentality, and they also changed the rules along with them, where they started doing things similarly to how men would do them. But in this case, men are more primal and closer to nature, so they haven't really changed much. Should women have kept the access limited though? Well, the real question is that even possible? In this world, women are born way more than men. Men die really, really easy. They're very fragile. And there's a lot of wars, and usually men are on the front line, so men always die first, leaving there to be more women than men. So it's hard to have an equal distribution of the population where you have one woman for one man. So women in these cases and in these type of situations tend to give an easier access to men, so they're the ones that are taken and not the ones that are left out, which is again a sign of adapt and evolve. However, when it comes to men and their dating game, the evolvement has not changed much. The mentality is still the same that it has been forever now. So he is still longing for a real woman, which is a woman that would deny him early access. And the more difficult the access is, the more he wants her. So the status quo remains the same for men, however for women they are miles ahead, and so these two can never really sit down and have a conversation because of that. And so the women that do give easy access, we call them pick-me's. They agree with men on basically anything and everything, and they argue for them using very biased common sense, and sometimes things that shouldn't be said in 2023 and that don't even belong to 2023 anymore. They call a 25 years old in not wifey material. I didn't realize I was that old. A man is right and a woman is wrong. And they're trying to deny women many of their earned rights so men can have it easier. And they're personally benefiting from those laws. It's thanks to those laws and regulations that they have the platform that they do have, but still use that platform to talk against having that platform. I mean, isn't a podcast chasing your career? Why aren't you in the kitchen married and having kids? Most of the women that are going onto these podcasts or creating these podcasts talking on how women shouldn't have this or that are actually marketing geniuses though. They're becoming millionaires through that. So yeah, they're not exactly practicing what they preach because they're getting rich off of it, getting richer than most men, and also denying themselves easy access to men because their standards from there on are going to be higher as well. Or they will just not get picked because, well, a man would be emasculated. And so yeah, this business model is basically enrage as many women as possible, make as many men as possibly possible happy, which turns into attention, which turns into money. So I say we just stop listening to these folks who learn how to finesse our feelings. How to detect a pick-me. Pick-me's can be easily detected by other women, but I don't know about men though. We can detect them by pick-me-like behavior. We see them doing that, and we can feel the vibe and the energy coming from them, and it's usually hostile. Now, these type of behaviors are sometimes also influenced by media, where you have usually in like rom-coms or drama where a beautiful woman is playing hard to get and is usually vilified for that, in a woman who is given easy access, is kind and sweet and loving, family oriented, and that's just a depiction. It's not really the reality, but a lot of women take that as a reality and run with that idea and make access to themselves very easy. Then they get heartbroken and they jump into their dark feminine era. If you want to hear more about dark femininity, I'll leave a link somewhere up here. But in reality, being easy doesn't really work like that and doesn't yield the results that you want. You have to pull back a little bit and let a man show you who he is and his true colors and how he would treat you. However, Pick Me does the opposite, where she is the one surrendering herself to be one person or a group of people, and in the end gets called for the streets just for being nice to a man. Nevertheless, she's always around boys because women are too much drama, and she wants men to praise her for doing things that men do and for being one of the boys. So while she's with guys so much, she gets to hear them talk and how they think, and they usually stop treating her as a girl and start spewing the misogynistic things we know men spew behind our backs. And she starts agreeing with that and also repeating it, hoping that men call her one of the good ones, or at least get any sort of praise. But however, that's really, really sad, because that's usually the type of woman that gets tossed around groups of men and they start talking shit behind their back and calling them for the streets just for wanting to be accepted. Laying in bed with her isn't something special, it's actually worthless because everybody got it and there's no cap on it. There was no expectation or no anticipation, so it's just bland. And in the end, they find themselves hated by other women and men are bored of them. What's pick-me behavior? They talk bad about women. In their minds, to be likable by men, they need to adopt characteristics of men and behave like men. And since they spend a lot of time with them, they hear them talk. However, we know that men just spew misogynistic things behind women's back.
Women.
But in front of women, they actually change how they speak and they're more nice, friendly, and more civilized. Because, well, they want to smash. However, a pick-me doesn't really care about women like that, so she doesn't really change her behavior in front of women, and so she starts saying the same misogynistic things men said in front of women, which of course makes women hate them even more. Besides, you're also a woman, so why do you talk bad about women? Being a man's toy, a man that doesn't work hard for something would never appreciate it. In order to raise your value, you should not be easy to access. It's not just about playing hard, because that's getting a little outdated, but rather just be busy with yourself, be busy in your life. Have hobbies, have things to do, things that don't exactly center a man in your life. If you look okay and you're mentally stable, trust me, along the way a man will come. And then he needs to slowly carve his place in your life. But a pick-me will clearly make it noticeable that you are already the center of her life, and why aren't you choosing her? A pick-me tries really, really hard to get praise. A pick-me will talk bad about women and will try to get praise for the opposite thing that they talked bad about the women for. Let me explain. A good example would be like, oh, I would never wear so much makeup. Like, how could you have so much of that stuff on your face? I could never. And after she says that, she has her ears perked, waiting for a man to say, oh, you look naturally beautiful. Or things like, I would never wear so much perfume. I don't want those toxins on my body, and I actually naturally smell good, so I don't have to buy smelling good in a bottle. And a lot of things like that that are really derogatory to women, and they try to get praise for being the opposite of that, which make it make sense. I mean, men wear cologne too, so are you calling men stinky? And other things like fighting against divorce, child support, and fighting women's rights. Because why would women deserve rights? They don't. She enjoys all the right the Western world has given to women, and yet she still speaks against them. Who is very open about her high body count and wasn't married by 25. All men agree with her, they love listening to her, but she's single. Yet she shames women for not being married at 25 and for having a high body counts and for chasing a career, and God knows how much she makes from her podcasts. Because like we said, her goal is to say things that make men happy, whether they're correct or no. Fighting against things like child support, whereas it's usually the mother that gets custody of the children. How do you plan to have a kid into this world and not pay for them? And so many other things that make women angry that are not by chance but actually by design, so that they can make money off of that. It's not really the ideology that matters, rather it's the income. Being a loud pick-me is a huge internet business.
First question I had was, how did you initially blow up on TikTok? I blew up on TikTok because I was really blessed because my parents just have like really cool stuff. My dad's like nuts, so he bought this like big water slide from a water park, and I just told the story of how the town didn't want him to put him up. Yeah, that got me like, I don't know, 15,000 followers, like overnight. Like I just woke up with like a bunch of followers. When that happened, I realized that I was good at telling stories. I just kept posting basically what worked. So then I started posting confessions, breakup quizzes, stuff with my siblings, just whatever seemed to work at the time. I went from 15,000 to 215,000 on TikTok. Is social media what you want to do long term? Yes. So my goal is, ideally I'd like to build a personal brand and make money off of views, off of sponsorship. If that doesn't work out, I'd still like to be in video and media in some sort. So I'd like to help other people grow online, or I would like to do video editing, whatever.
Especially on apps like YouTube and TikTok, because they play on people's feelings, and especially women. So women are rage texting, rage commenting, and men are praising, and well, they're happy to hear that somebody actually agrees with them. However, the whole thing behind that is pitting the genders against each other, but I thought men wanted access to women, so how can you fight against something you want? Make it make sense. Red pill women are not women that are women friendly. Do you guys remember that Dave Chappelle skit, in the Dave Chappelle show, where there's a blind black guy who is racist and he doesn't know he's black, and so he's writing a lot of literature hating on black people.
Could this have happened? A black white supremacist.
But he himself is actually black and uses the N-word like crazy. It's practically the same thing. You're a woman, yet you're somehow blind to that truth and talk bad about women. That's pearl for you. It was already hard as it is, having men pushing against women's rights and merits. However, having a woman do it is much worse, because you're not just a traitor, you're like a double agent. You're giving inside secrets to the enemy at this point. And you're a traitor of the sisterhood, and you can never be welcomed back in. But nevertheless, she was never chosen by men, and now she's also not being chosen by women, so let her have it. Maybe that's why she's bitter. Why do these women feel like they have to be a pick-me? If you guys know the scientist Maslow with, the famous triangle of needs, belonging and shelter is one of the most basic necessities for human beings, and so pick-me's also feel like they want to belong to something and to be sheltered by a certain group. Pick-me's strategically put themselves between men, thinking that men will accept them and treat them as one of them. Or maybe that they think that men are more supreme to women. And for you to show your loyalty to your new tribe, you have to, well, talk down on your first tribe. So you kind of have to disown and to detach from the one you were born into by default, i.e. pick me behavior, putting men on a pedestal while throwing women under the bus. When you're a teenager, you tend to go through this self-discovery journey. Sometimes it's self-discovery, for me it was self-isolation. And when you're a teenager, you just get the feeling that everybody's looking at you and always keeping an eye on you. I don't know if it's everybody or if it's just me. So the need to detach from everything you've ever known starts to kick in, going against your parents and whatever's trending. For example, subcultures like emo culture or hipster culture, and rejecting things like girly girls and, Barbies, dresses, pink, and becoming more of a tomboy girl. They're all, subcultures that are opposite to each other. However, the kid that is going through the rebellious phase tends to go for the least popular subculture of all. And let's say, for example, in a community, you have girls that are acting really, really girly, so the only natural thing to do would be to be a really, really tomboy girl. And pick-me girls can be under that category as well. The category of I'm not really like other girls, I'm very special and unique, and I have my own personality. And the sad thing is that some girls are not really ever over that phase of life, and they just adopt it until adulthood, where people can see exactly what you're doing. When you're a teenager, everybody's trying to assert themselves differently from everybody else, but when you're an adult, well, people are over that and they see what you're doing. And as adults, our brains are more wired now to work as a group, as a union, as a collective. But if you're still trying to assert yourself as different, well, you'll not be accepted. Well, at least people will know what you're trying to do by separating yourself and being the spotlight, under the spotlight. And that's exactly what pick-mes are trying to do. They're trying to isolate, they're trying to detach, they're trying to be different. However, when you're, past that certain age of being a kid and now you're an adult, well, you're supposed to do the opposite. You're supposed to be helpful, give an advice, lend a lipstick, give a tampon. But a pick-me will not do any of that. Instead, she will go to the boys and tell them, hey, there's somebody plugging, let's make fun of them. I find it really hard to define what a pick-me is. I know it's defined in Urban Dictionary and whatnot, but I just feel like it's not enough because it's very nuanced and it's in every single category of personalities. A woman can detect a pick-me, but I don't know about men. And so things that pick-me's like to do or enjoy to do are usually normal things, but for the sake of who they're doing it and against who they're doing it, that's where the main difference is. From somebody who's just, a person who's enjoying football, be it a girl or a guy. How do you know that person is a pick-me? Well, who are they going against? Type of thing. And that extends to other gendered behaviors like video games, basketball, kayaking. Just because you like those things doesn't mean you're a pick-me. Do men like pick-me girls? That's a good question. One time I saw this comment under, a pick-me skit video, and some guy says that problem with dating a pick-me is that they're not only trying to be liked by their man, they're trying to get liked by every other man out there. So I don't know, are guys into that? Are guys into sharing? Are men responsible for creating pick-me girls? More or less, because pick-me's enjoy criticizing women just as men do. It's a behavior that's very rooted in misogyny, and we know that misogyny comes from men, and of course some women tend to also encompass it. Am I a pick-me? Well, my channel mainly caters for men, and they show men how to get girls. I also like anime like crazy, just like guys do. I'll leave the answer to you guys, but I would say that I'm not, because I have girlfriends and we get along just well, and I do lend tampons. So this will be the end of this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.